Hey, how is it going, Elder Scrolls Nation? It is Skullzi here, and I have another Starfield leak to talk about, to break down, and to tell you whether it's true or not. I feel like I've been talking about Starfield in the same exact manner ever since it was first leaked a long time ago. Starfield just keeps popping up all over the rumor radar, and with still no official confirmation from Bethesda Game Studios that the game even exists, this is all crazy speculation. I wonder if Bethesda is doing this on purpose to distract us from some real project that they're doing. Something so crazy that we couldn't even guess. Now, there have been two recent leaks about Starfield actually in the last few days, which is kind of interesting. One of them isn't really a leak. Some YouTubers are calling it a leak, which really pisses me off because that's kind of clickbait. The second thing is not a leak, it's just investigating the trademark. I'll get into that later. The first one is a leak, and it comes to us from Reddit of all fucking things, and I'll break that down for you entirely in this video, as well as the second piece of information related to Starfield. Now, before I get into this, let me first say I really hope that a lot of this stuff is true. Not all of it, but a lot of it. In fact, I hope Starfield does come out. I hope it gets announced at E3 this year, and I hope that it gets released later on this year so that we can actually finally play a new Bethesda Game Studios game, because, come on guys, Skyrim and the Boston Wasteland are getting a little stale. It's been years. But I say this because, as I do wish a lot of this stuff was real, I cannot risk my credibility by saying any of this is real. It's not confirmed, and in fact, Bethesda Game Studios themselves says Starfield doesn't exist, so I always have to go off only the confirmed facts. However, I'm always open to educated speculation, and you kinda always have to use educated speculation when it comes to guessing anything about Bethesda Game Studios games before they actually announce anything. So yes, well, educated speculation is good to keep in mind. None of this might be true, and I cannot tell you it's true without risking my own credibility, which I do not want to do. I always want to be known as a source of information that will debunk rumors and be real with you all. If I think something might be true, I'll say it. However, if I think something's bullshit, I'm saying it's bullshit. Now let's actually get to this stuff. So the first one is, like I said, a leak from Reddit. It seems like all these leaks about Starfield, or most leaks in general, even ones about Elder Scrolls 6, always happen on Reddit. I don't know why that is. In fact, I usually don't use Reddit. At least I don't use it too often. I have an account just to check stuff out. But yeah, another leak about Starfield on Reddit. Here we go again. We're living in a fucking cycle. Now, this leak comes to us from a post on Bethesda Softworks subreddit, and the name of the post is Information on Starfield, with rumor next to it, if you can even call this thing a rumor. When I see a pile of bullshit stinking up in the corner of my house, I don't call it a rumor. I try to get it as far away from me as possible. If you haven't guessed, I don't think any of this is true. Like I said, I wish it was, but I'm gonna be real with you. I don't think any of this is true, but I will break this down completely and tell you what I think about this, and tell you what I think out of any of this might be in the game, and why I think most of this is not true. First of all, the reason I don't think this is true is, let's look at the person who submitted this post. The Unknown Regions, that name sounds like it was created for this post. Starfield, a mysterious space exploration game, Unknown Regions. And oh, look, it was. This Reddit account was created solely for this post, and it was made the day the post was made. Oh wow, imagine that. Big surprise there. Let's see if this is actually the only post this account made. And it is. So that's one big reason why I don't think this is true. It's obvious someone created this Reddit account just to post this crap. Now, I will say, if someone did want to leak something about a game, they would likely create a throwaway Reddit account to do so. They wouldn't use anything that could somehow be traced back to them. So I will give it that. However, so far this supposed leak is looking pretty grim. Let me actually get into the post and let's break this thing down. Sorry if I'm rambling a bit, guys. I'm just really excited to be talking about so much Bethesda Game Studios news recently. Even if this is a leak, and even if it isn't true, I am so hyped for whatever is coming at E3 this year, because I guarantee something big is coming. So okay, the Unknown Regions in this post, he begins the post with a little introduction to introduce his bullshit to us on a silver platter. Here, look at my lies. Take them. Anyway, he says, this is going to come across as a "my dad works for Bethesda" post, but I won't name my source. You'll see a lot of this is true in May. I'll just get to the content and information I know and list in bullet points. Thank you for listing it in bullet points. It actually makes it easier to break down in this video, so that's the only positive thing I could say about this Reddit post so far. But so far, yeah, it does seem like a "my dad works for Bethesda" post. I mean, you kind of said it yourself. You had it in your mind when you made the post, so you knew what this was. Anyway, the first bullet point says, heads at Bethesda have been noticing a rise in science fiction influenced content in the market, not just a video game market, so they're going to make a game of their own in this genre. They've always wanted this anyway, even Todd Howard has. Now, that's actually kind of true, because before Morrowind, Bethesda Game Studios tried to do a sci-fi space RPG game. However, it got canceled before it even got close to releasing. There was a lot of stuff going on at Bethesda Game Studios back then. They were split into different teams, and it was kind of fracturing their whole entire vision and focus. In fact, Bethesda almost went bankrupt back then. Morrowind saved them from this, thank the divines, of course. So yeah, so Bethesda is interested in sci-fi. They've tried it before, and I guarantee now with their recent success with Elder Scrolls and Fallout, they're gonna want to explore another genre. And I will nod that this post is true. There does seem to be kind of an increase in science fiction space and sci-fi stuff, even in movies, games, etc. So they kind of might pick up on that trend. However, I will say that Pete Hines himself says that he wants Bethesda to not be known as a company that tries to follow trends and do the same thing as everyone else. They in fact want to be trailblazers and start new trends and set the precedent for future games and developers. They want to get ahead of games like Elite Dangerous and Star Citizen and Beyond Good and Evil 2. Well, okay, first of all, Elite Dangerous, Star Citizen, Beyond Good and Evil 2, they're all similar, but at their core, they're different games. To be honest, I don't think Bethesda Game Studios would look at Elite Dangerous or Star Citizen as their main competition. They're not really RPG games. I don't think they're gonna pay that much attention to those games. So comparing that to what Starfield or whatever would be would kind of be silly. And he says the game is in fact called Starfield. Okay. Cool, thanks for that. I really have no way to confirm that one way or another other than the trademark that ZeniMax does keep renewing does say Starfield. He says it is more like a space fantasy or opera setting instead of a harder science fiction. It's like Star Wars, so there are fantasy themes in it that have naturally transferred over from their previous work. I think what he's trying to say is it's not like a Mass Effect with all the technology. It's more like Star Wars where there's gonna be some type of mystical, magical stuff going on. I don't know if there's gonna be space magic, whatever you want to call it. There's gonna be some kind of fantasy theme to Starfield, which I could see Bethesda doing, and I would kind of appreciate that if that was true. You can make your own character. The game looks a lot like Fallout 4, but the animations aren't as janky. You can climb on buildings and terrain from a skill even. That just seems like, man, this whole thing just seems like he's just listing off ideas that he'd like to see in the game. In fact, I could have made this post and then waited a few days and then made a video about it just to profit from my own bullshit. I obviously didn't do it, but I'm just saying, this post, man, I'm kind of tired of seeing these leaks. Even if you have some real information about Starfield, at this point, I hate to say it, but unless you can give us some evidence that it's true, just keep this shit to yourself. I'm so tired of seeing Starfield leak on headlines and on YouTube and then going to the source to investigate it for myself and seeing something like this. I'm tired of it. I'm so tired and disappointed of getting hyped for something and then getting it crushed. You have to realize, whoever is doing this shit, that you are affecting the community and making it a toxic fuck pit, because now you have two sides. You have people who want this to be true so bad that they are negative and will attack anyone that is real and says it's probably not true, but I wish it was. And then you have people on the other side who are saying it's probably not true and I wish it was. And it's just everyone's split down the middle because of this shit. But anyway, let's carry on. To go even further with the bullshit, the game will have cutting-edge procedural generation technology. A lot of the game mechanics rely on it. I'm gonna say no, 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 again no, because Bethesda Game Studios is known for handcrafting almost everything in their world. The only stuff they use procedural generation with is stuff like the plants in and around like Oblivion. They used it with some of the trees in Oblivion. They used it with some of the plants and the ground cover in Skyrim, and that makes sense because they wouldn't have to pay special attention to every texture of every plant in the wilderness. In cities they would, but not so much in the wilderness. And when people hear procedural generation technology, they think of things like No Man's Sky, where every planet is randomly generated. That's not what Bethesda would use this technology for. If anything, they would use it to procedurally generate, like I said, the plants, and then they would make that permanent and carry that over into the game. They wouldn't have it different in every game. The plant life wouldn't be different from my game to yours, like it would be in No Man's Sky. Except obviously No Man's Sky is based on a server, so those planets are eventually saved, but you get my point either way. And then talking about planets, he goes on to say there are 4 important planets in the game you can travel between in the system. 3 of them have procedurally generated terrain and are fully sized. Bullshit. The other one is a big city planet that has a set map size, maybe around the size of Morrowind's map. If Bethesda did a Starfield game, I would guess that they would probably have a number of planets you can go to. I don't think that they would have like an infinite amount of stuff, so I could kind of believe, I guess, this. But when I see procedurally generated terrain and all that stuff, I'm just calling bullshit. They're not gonna do that. They're gonna handcraft their worlds, because that is what Bethesda Game Studios is known for and have been known for. On the galaxy map, there's a section of the map called the Unknown Regions, where there are endless planets that are generated you can explore. Oh, look what I was just talking about. He even says that each planet is fully sized sized and it's like a special dungeon. No, Bethesda would not rely on 90% of their game to be procedurally generated, and even though this would be side content, I still consider it a major part of the game because you can't kid yourself, most of Bethesda Game Studios games are side content. If a lot of that was procedurally generated, it would seem like they didn't put much of their own effort into the game and relied on a code to write everything for them. Bethesda Game Studios would not do that, so already this post should obviously be full of shit, and I know I may get some hate for saying this. I wish some of this was true, not the procedurally generated stuff, but this post is just such horse shit. There's no way any of this is true because of all the talk about the procedural generation. And then he even goes on to keep talking about procedural generation. Alien species, animals, locations, all of it is procedurally generated. You can even find small things at a camp to something the size of a colony or cities on planet surfaces. Like, man, you're just telling me that Bethesda Game Studios wrote a code for procedurally generated worlds and content and then just clicked start and they're gonna put all that code that it generates onto a disk. You're essentially saying Bethesda Game Studios is letting a procedurally generated game engine design a game on its own. Bethesda Game Studios is creating the Geth. They're letting the Geth design a game. This is ridiculous.
Give us a line.
I don't even feel like I should go on in this post. In fact, I'm gonna go through it quickly because I feel like I've spent too much time on it already, but I want to make sure you guys get all the information from it. So to paraphrase it, he says that some of these generated species, these generated aliens that you discover, if you scan them or catalog them or whatever he's ripping off from No Man's Sky and you take it back to the system starting area with the 4 planets, you can unlock that species to play for future characters. Oh man. So this whole post is about procedural generation. He says your character is silent and the character is not anyone special. This is the only thing in this whole post that makes the most sense, because your character has been silent in most Bethesda games, however not Fallout 4. And then they say the character is not anyone special. That could be the same thing. Sometimes you're the Dragonborn, a hero of legend that everyone knows about, and other times you're just some prisoner like in Oblivion and you just help the real hero, Martin Septim. So it could go either way here. He says you choose what planet you want the game to start on. No, Bethesda wouldn't do that either. They always specialize and pay special attention to when you start the game, to the prologue, to your starting area. They wouldn't just let that be randomized. No, no, no. Combat is similar to Fallout 4, but with better cover mechanic. Okay, obviously that's probably how it would be in a future release for a Bethesda Game Studios game involving guns. It's gonna be similar to one of their previous games, but better. No shit. There are infinite weapons, comparable to Borderlands, so let's just compare Starfield to things that we liked from other kind of sci-fi-ish shooter games. Let's just compare things from RPGs that we liked and just let's say, hey, this is gonna be in Starfield, type, oh, here's a leak. Man, fuck this post. He even says the settlement system is expanded, you can establish colonies, and okay, that might be in the game. Obviously, Bethesda wouldn't create all of this work with the settlement gameplay mechanic in Fallout 4 and just abandon it. They would at least adopt it into a future game and change it to fit that game. They wouldn't just leave that behind. So that would probably be in a future game. They go on to say there are some ground vehicles like speeders and some transports, but nothing too large. There's nothing larger than a garbage truck. I don't know how the fuck you would know that unless you've played the game extensively, but whatever. I don't even think I need to talk about that. He says there are factions, but they can be procedurally generated. Oh, you can't just join every faction, but you can be multiple at once. Alright, so there you go. There's the post. If I could sum up this post, I would say this post was procedurally generated by a pile of fucking shit. Because this whole entire post, 90% of it is procedurally generated, which 100% Bethesda would never do. Some of this I would like to see. I would like to see Starfield, first of all. I think that would be amazing. I would like to see a lot of ships, like it mentioned. I forgot to go through that, but it said there's a lot of ships to buy, probably around 30. I would like to see stuff like that. I'd like to see ground vehicles. I'd like to see factions. I'd like to see a settlement system expanded, and I'd like to see planet exploration, but I do not want to see procedurally generated anything from Bethesda, because the one thing that makes them stand out the most is their handcrafted worlds. So no to this fucking post. Not only is it not true, I hope it's not true. And like I said, I hope I don't get any hate for trying to be the realist when it comes to Bethesda Game Studios news, but I do not want to risk my credibility, and I do not want to get any hate from anyone for saying something is true if there's no proof. You can get hyped if you want, but manage your hype. Do not expect this stuff to be true, and at the very least, just acknowledge the possibility that it's not true, because none of this can be confirmed. He also goes on to say that a trailer is supposed to come out in late May, and they'll show more gameplay at E3. Whatever Bethesda Game Studios is going to show us at E3, if they are going to announce a major game, I probably would be able to guess that they would show us a teaser trailer of some sorts in May to get us extra hyped. They may show us this probably mid-May or even at the beginning of May, because Bethesda Game Game Studios are masters of hype, and if the very, very first thing that we see from Bethesda Game Studios that actually confirms what they've been working on is weeks before E3, imagine how fucking hyped we will be. The weeks leading up to E3 will be going nuts, and then at E3 they'll show us this gameplay, we'll get all freaking excited and crazy, and then they'll say you can get the game in October or November this year, and people's minds will explode, and everyone will die, and Bethesda will take over the world. No, I'm joking, but anyway, that would be fucking awesome. Now, this person, this bullshit head, went on to comment a couple things to other people who were commenting on the thread on Reddit. The first one is, he says the unlockable species are only bipedal and sapient. You can't play as a giant fly. And that was in response to someone asking if you can unlock a character or one of the procedurally generated species, what if they have more than 2 legs? What if they're not, you know, humans? He's pretty much saying that's not possible. You'll only be able to play as the ones that are bipedal and sapient. In another comment, he says it's a lived-in universe, but there is still technology that is comparable to the Institute from Fallout 4 mixed in. So you're saying there's lasers? I mean, obviously there's spaceships. This post just seems kind of useless. And then, as if he somehow heard me talking in the future, in this comment he says there aren't as many handcrafted locations as a typical Bethesda game on one planet. The emphasis is on planet exploration as they serve as the dungeons of the game. Like I said, I don't believe this. I don't believe that Bethesda Game Studios would even put procedural generation as the main aspect of their side content. I don't think this is true. They're gonna handcraft their world. They're only gonna rely on procedural generation for very minimal things. His last comment goes on to say the 4 main planets are handcrafted, but the large areas of land in between locations on the planets are not. So, like I said, I've already talked about this enough. The procedural generation thing isn't gonna be true. This post isn't true, and I hope you can see that, and I hope you agree with me. You have to be wary of all this kind of stuff. Unless Bethesda says something themselves, you cannot believe it as fact. You can be hyped for it, you can say you hope it's true, but you can't get pissed off if it's not, and you can't get pissed off at other people that say they don't believe it is. I do not want to see the Bethesda community get all split up because of this stuff. Because of all these fake leaks, we need to stand together and stand united, especially when we keep getting barraged by stuff like this. Now, one thing before I end the video, I understand this video is getting long, but I wanted to fully give you my perspective on this. The other thing I mentioned at the beginning of the video involved people investigating further into the Starfield trademark. Now, some YouTubers are reporting on this as a leak. It is not a leak, so do not fall for that clickbait stuff, because a leak is when someone leaks some confidential information. This is just someone who investigated the trademark and found something pretty interesting. So this comes to us from a forum known as Reset Era, which is a little shady because Reset Era has been known to promote fake news to further get more activity on their boards. But I can't say that's what they're doing here one way or another because I don't know. However, I think that may be the case. But first of all, let's get into this. So the user Amermo, it sounds like Mario's cousin. Anyway, he investigated all of the trademarks from ZeniMax, mostly Starfield, and the first words in Starfield's trademark is mobile application software. Now, it does go on to say electronic game programs and computer games, but the first words are what is important here and what he wants to emphasize, and it says mobile application software. Then he decided to check out Skyrim's trademark. The first words of Skyrim's trademark says computer game software. Even more interesting, Prey says computer game software, however, Fallout Shelter's first words are mobile game software. So it seems like if something is going to be a mobile game, the first wording in its trademark will hint towards that. However, if something is going to be a major AAA game, the first wording in the trademark will say that. It will say computer game. So it seems like this Starfield trademark may not even be Bethesda Game Studios' next major game. It could be some type of mobile project. However, this may not be true because this could be just something to hide the fact that this is a AAA game, only this game will have mobile tie-ins. Kind of like how Fallout 4 did with the Pip-Boy. So while I can't say what this exactly means, it is interesting, and it does kind of make you think a little bit. But like I said, Bethesda Game Studios themselves said Starfield doesn't exist, however, ZeniMax does have this trademark. So whether or not it's gonna be a mobile game or a AAA game is yet to be determined. But anyway, major props to Amero for looking into these trademarks. I wonder what Starfield is. I wonder if this actually confirms that Starfield, or whatever Starfield is going to be called when it's released, is a mobile game. But that wraps up this video. It was a long one, but I wanted to completely break it down so that we can get some real information about this crap. I've seen a lot of people talking about this like it could be true, and I wanted to be the voice of reason in the Bethesda Game Studios community. So long story short, that Reddit leak that I talked about, completely bullshit. However, this trademark thing, it's obviously true because you can go there and look it up yourself, but it doesn't confirm anything one way or another. It's just something interesting to talk about. Now, what I want to know is, what do you think about all of this, Elder Scrolls Nation? Do you agree with me that this leak is bullshit? Would you want to see any procedurally generated stuff from Bethesda Game Studios? Let me know in the comments below. What do you think about the trademark stuff? Do you think Starfield might be a mobile game because because of this? Let me know about that too, and if your comment wins the internet, I'll feature it in a future video. And if you like my content, please thumbs up the video and consider supporting me on Patreon. Link is in the description below. And if you want to stay in the know about Bethesda Game Studios news and just gaming stuff in general, hit the subscribe button and turn notifications on so you can be the first to watch new videos. Follow me on that Twitter so you can get all news and information about the channel first, and so we can interact with one another as a community. And as always, thank you for watching. Be sure to tune in next time, when hopefully a real Starfield leak happens and it's not on fucking Reddit.
Bye, have a great time.